Today we're going to be making the Vestibule Wallet. This is a full-size wallet. It has 12 card slots inside. We have an ID window here right under the flap. There are six card slots on each side, plus two long open areas to put bills. And then we have a zippered pocket in the center. This is all raw edged vinyl, but it is fully lined as well. The flap closes with a magnetic snap. Also included with the pattern are SVG files. So if you have a Silhouette, a Cricut, Brother Scan and Cut, any of the cutting machines, you can cut your pattern pieces out using the Silhouette or using whatever your cutting machine is. I also have a video of showing how I cut it out on my Silhouette. I have a Cameo 4. So other than that, I don't know exactly how the others work. I'm semi-proficient in using my Silhouette. If you like what you see, go ahead and follow my channel if you don't already. Give my video a thumbs up if you like it, and stay tuned and we'll make this wallet. Thanks for watching. Today we are going to make the Vestibule Wallet. So we're just going to get started. Every material that I'm using is linked where to buy it in the description, but almost everything is from moremeknow.com. Zipper tape, zipper pull, vinyl, waterproof canvas that I'm using for the lining, magnetic snap, all comes from moremeknow. And then I'm using 1/8 inch double-sided tape, which is from Weft and Warp Co. And I'm using bubblegum pink sewing string from Wizardry. Step number one, we are going to put the zipper tabs onto the zipper. So you fold them in half and slide them over the ends of the zipper. If you're using a number 3 zipper, you'll only need your zipper tabs to be 1 inch by 1 inch. So you can fold them over the end and then clip the extra off, cut it off. But I'm using a number 5 zipper, so I'm going to use 1/8 inch double-sided tape along the long edges to hold it in place on the zipper. You don't have to use double-sided tape for every single step of this pattern, but it is raw edged vinyl or leather or cork, whatever you choose. And I like to use double-sided tape to help keep everything in place so that the edges line up nicely on the finished product. You can mark a line down the center of this also if you want to make sure that it's even when you fold it over the end of the zipper. All right, so you want to make sure that both sides match up and that the zipper is all the way into the fold. All right, and then you just top stitch using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. I'm using a stitch length of 4.5. I think anywhere from 4 to 5 is good for this pattern. All right, and then I don't always use a lighter to singe the ends of my thread, but because this bag is raw edged, I feel like it shows more if the little pieces of thread are poking out. So I will probably use the lighter to singe my threads on most steps. Just be careful if you use a lighter and don't burn yourself. tape also sticks to your fingers. All right, I promise I won't sew this slowly the whole time. I hope, because if I do, this will take forever. All right, so we have the zipper tabs attached. That was step one. Step number two, we want to take our main body lining and place it wrong side up and use the ruler to measure and mark 1/2 inch down from the straight edge and the curved edge. And I'm just using regular black pen. It's not going to show through, so it won't matter. If you're using like maybe a white waterproof canvas or something, you might want to check it on a scrap to make sure that it doesn't show on the wrong side. Or hopefully it's not going to show. And along these curved edges also. All right, and then we want to cut in the corners 1/4 of an inch only. So I'm actually going to mark that so that I don't cut too far. The top corners here, you can cut a V out if you want to. I like to just cut a line and then it will overlap slightly. So I'm just going to cut on those lines no further than 1/4 of an inch in. All right, and then we're going to use our 1/8 inch double-sided tape and just place it directly along the marked lines, or you can place it directly along the raw edge. Either is fine. And then you will fold down the raw edge to match up to that line and stick it down on the tape. And this is so that you don't have a raw edge of the waterproof canvas on the inside. Waterproof canvas doesn't fray horribly, but over time, if it's raw, if the raw edge is exposed, it will fray. All right, so it'll be like this, and we're going to do that here as well. And here. You don't have to use waterproof canvas for the lining on this. You can use, I think ripstop nylon would be a good choice. I don't know if maybe interface cotton would be a good choice. I think one layer of a woven interfacing on it would be good. And definitely using waterproof canvas and this Luxe vinyl, I don't find that any interfacing is necessary. If you use something lighter, you may want to use like maybe Decovil Light or even a woven interfacing on the flat piece, because you may find that you need a little extra sturdiness. All right, so we have this. I'm going to repeat that process on the other flap. There's a lot of prep in this pattern compared to the amount of sewing. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did relocate my sewing machine. So I had it in front of the window before, but whenever I would have it, like, or if it was sunny outside and I'm trying to sew, certain times of the day I couldn't, or I'd have like weird glares on the table of my sewing machine, or the light looked weird. So honestly, I did put curtains up today. But I also moved my sewing machine on the wall opposite the window. And I feel like the lighting is a little bit better over here. I did get another light too, right above my sewing machine table. So that should help. I liked the idea of sewing and being able to look out the window, but really all I could see is where I parked my car. So, because what my sewing machine used to be a 2-car garage, and we do have a barn that's separate, but my husband's boat isn't. So we can't really park in there. Yeah. So anyway, I think that this will be better. The only thing that might be worse is that the air conditioner might be louder over here when it kicks on, but it's cold out right now, so we won't know for a while. Oh, and I've got my new microphone, so that might help also. Even if the air conditioner is noisy, we might not hear it. So I'm taking steps to try to improve my videos, a little bit at a time. I think my next purchase for video making, anyway, will be a separate camera or a different phone just for videos. All right. So we have both of those. And you can really give this vinyl a good crease with like your fingernail or ruler or something. All right, now on step 3, we want the main body B pieces. Place it wrong side up, and we want to measure 3/8 of an inch down from the top long straight edge. This little ruler that I'm using is from Mormino as well. She has a lot of different rulers. I like this one. It has a 3/8 inch mark on it specifically, and I like that it's small and I can keep it at my sewing machine and grab it whenever I need to. So I'm going to place a line of tape right along the edge of both sides of my zipper. Just don't peel the paper off both sides at one time or you'll have your zipper pull stuck in it. Oh, and if you were using a number 3 zipper, you would want to make this marked line 1/4 of an inch down. We have marked a line. This is step number 2. Nope. Step number 3. Measure 3/8 of an inch down from the top long straight edge. Tape the zipper in place, right side up, centered from left to right. This is important that it's right side up. It seems wrong, but it's right. And I just did that wrong, and I had it sewed to the lining and the exterior and had to rip it all out. Now we'll take the lining, and I might need to put more tape on it. And I just use the 1/8 inch tape along everything to hold it in place. There is some along the zipper there, so I think that'll be okay. Yeah, I'm glad I caught that before I got further, I guess. It happens, right? So pay attention to the directions. I can't even follow directions that I wrote myself. Like literally just a couple days ago, I typed that. Okay. All right, so this is taped. We are lining the lining, the main body lining. The top edges of it are all lined up, and then there's about a 1/8 inch gap all the way around. That is correct. There should be no gap along the top, though. The lining, the folded edge of the lining should match up exactly with the raw edge of the vinyl. Sorry. All right. We want to top stitch along the top edges using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. You want to back stitch a couple stitches at the start and at the stop. The foot that I'm using is a narrow foot that I got from Mormino. Not sure if she sells them or not anymore. But it's great for sewing along zippers and things because you don't have to change your foot out always. Or worry about not being able to get close enough. Now we're going to repeat that with the other side. And here it's easier to line up because you'll make sure that the edges of the main body B pieces line up, and then you know you have it centered correctly. Now I just still have tape on mine from what I messed up. Maybe not very much, but all right. And here we're going to fold these pieces back out of the way so that they're not caught in the stitching here. And same thing, just line up the top. The top folded edge of the main body lining with the top raw edge of main body B. All right, and then we're going to top stitch that side, also using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, now when you've done that correctly, you will fold in half exterior sides together. The lining sides will be facing out. And you kind of fold the zipper tabs in half. You want your zipper to be directly along the top. And you'll line up the top of these pieces. And then all the way around the sides and bottom. And you want to try your best to really align this well. So that way when you're done, you can use edge coat or edge paint if you want to, and it will go on better if everything lines up nicely. All right, so I just really take my time to line this up really well. You don't want to put double-sided tape between the exterior panels because that will cause problems later. But you can use double-sided tape to hold the lining panels to the exterior panels, and that's okay. All right, so now we are going to top stitch or sew through this here, down, across, and then up. So we're using a 1 inch seam allowance. You can put a zipper foot on if you want to, so that you can get really close to the zipper, or to the zipper tabs, which I think I might do. I didn't think I would need it for this video. I'll put it away. That is not the right one. So there's like a left and a right zipper foot. And you have industrial walking foot, and I honestly don't even know which one's which. I guess this is the right walking foot. I don't know. The right one is the one I always use, I think. I always use the one I'm using right now, and I think it's the right side because it's on my right side facing it. I don't know. All right, so now I can get really close. So you want to use a 1-inch seam allowance. Start at the top. Make sure you backstitch here. Don't forget that step. And then sew down the side and stop when you get 1 inch from the bottom. So you could pre-mark this out with like a chalk pencil or something if you want to, so that you have an idea of where that 1 inch is from the bottom. And then sew until you get 1 inch from the other end. Or you could put a piece of tape or something on your sewing machine, but also 1 inch is like lined up with that divot, I guess, or that corner here. So I think I only needed one more stitch. Oh no, that's pretty perfect. And then back stitch again here. All right, so that forms your coin pocket. And that way it's lined. It's lined with the exterior, but that way you're not adding extra layers too. Isn't that star zipper pull cute? It's also from More Me Now. All right, so that was step number 6. So now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to move on to the ID pocket window. All right, so I have a clear glitter for my ID window. If you want to, also here, you can cut a hole in the center of this so that you can like slide your ID out. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just placing some of the 1/8 inch double-sided tape along the outer edge of the window piece. You could also place it around the inner edge of the window border. Is that what I call it? The ID pocket window and the ID pocket frame. So this is the ID pocket window, is the clear vinyl, and the ID pocket frame is this. Obviously you don't have to use the same vinyl for that. You could use a contrasting vinyl, which I think I probably will make more of these. and use multiple vinyls. I think overall it's fairly quick. I mean, quicker than some things. Unless you sew it all together the wrong way and have to rip out all your stitches and start over. All right, so we're just going to center this over the opening. And then we're going to top stitch around the inner box right now using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, now we want to take main body A, which is this piece. Okay, and I need my ruler. And we want to measure 1/4 inch down from the top. It's 8 inches long, and so is my ruler. So obviously the center is 4 inches. All right, I'm going to, one other thing, we want to top stitch along whichever side you want to be the top of this. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but the top only using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, we're going to take some double-sided tape and place it around the exterior edge of the ID pocket, or the ID window frame. ID pocket frame, I think I call it. Okay. All right, and we want to measure down 1/4 of an inch from the top straight edge of main body A. And we want to place the ID pocket window. Make sure you have your top stitched edge at the top. We want it to be centered from left to right and 1/4 inch down from the top. All right, and make sure that that placement is exact. Okay, and then we're going to top stitch down the side, across the bottom, and then down the other side. One thing about this wallet is that you do need to make sure that everything is pretty exact with your measurements for it to all work out properly. All right, now step 9, we want to measure 7/8 inches up from the bottom center and make a mark. You want to make sure that this is centered. You could also use the snap placement mark on the main body A pattern piece. And part of the snap could potentially cover a little bit of the bottom of the ID window, and that's okay if it does. We want to take the female side of the snap we're going to take the little washer and mark our placement. And then I don't know where like my whole seam ripper is. I have this little piece from a seam ripper. So I'm going to cut the 2 little slits where the prongs will go. And slide those through. Place the washer on, and then I prefer opening the prongs out. I think some people like to open them in, so whatever, personal preference, I think, for that. So this is what you have. And don't worry about the fact that that goes over this a little bit. It's just what it is so that everything can fit. All right, so we're going to set main body A aside for now. Step 10. We want to place the inner flap accent right side up on top of the flap lining. So this is the flap lining. This is the inner flap accent. The inner flap accent will extend past the flap lining by 1/8 inch on the top and sides, but the flap lining will be 1/4 inch longer on the bottom. I also have this little tag. It says, "Oh, hi, I think you're amazing." from Sewing Blurbs. So I think I'm going to slide this probably right there. I think that's super cute. I never remember to use them. So I'm trying, because I have like a ton of tags. So I kind of dug through and looked for something that coordinated. So I'm going to use my 1/8 inch tape around the inner edge of the inner flap accent piece. The inner flap accent is 1/8 of an inch wider than the flap lining. The flap lining should have an extra 1/4 of an inch at the bottom. Got a 1/4 of an inch on the sides too, though. So it's easier to kind of line up with the flap accent, the inner flap accent, wrong side up. So now we have this. So we're still on step 10. I do want to place my little woven label. I think I want the oh hi part facing up. And now I'm going to top stitch along the bottom and then the inner portion of the accent flap, or the flap accent, just as long as the lining portion is in somewhat from the edges and you have something extending here. Really, that's all that matters. And it's fine. All right, now we want to place our snap in this. So I have my inner flap accent pattern piece, and I'm going to use my hole punch to punch out the snap placement. All right, and then I'm going to, it doesn't matter if you do this on the front or back, but line it up It might be easier on the front. Line it up with the inner flap accent and mark the center. All right, we're going to use the washer to mark the prong placement. And then go ahead and carefully cut only along those two marked lines. And again, I'm going to bend my prongs out. If you like to bend your prongs in, you can. Personal preference. And I like to bend them out because I feel like it's flatter. That way you don't have the bulk of the prongs over the back of the snap. All right, so once you do that, we're going to set that aside. Good luck to me for the card slots now, because clearly messing everything else up, so. I don't know if I have much hope for myself here. All right, so on the wrong side, we want to measure 2 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. If your fabric is directional, you want this to be the bottom. Draw a line. All right, and then from that line, we want to measure 1 3/4 of an inch up. And we're going to draw a second line. And then 2 inches, which is hard to see on this ruler. I'll finish those lines later. 1 3/4. Two inches. And the last one will be 1 3/4. All right, now I'm just going to use my ruler to finish the line. The way that ruler is, it's kind of a little more difficult to see through some of the lines. Okay. So now we are going to fold the card slots panel wrong sides together along the first line. So this is totally optional. I'm going to use double-sided tape to help hold my folds nicely in place. You could iron them, which I don't want to do, just because. So I'm going to look from the side. I can see where my line is. Press down. And then on the other side, the same thing. Now I don't remember, somebody does have a card slot tool. Maybe it's Carolina Little Stitches, which I don't have, but that would be nice. All right. So the next one, we're going to fold right sides together along the second line and press. You don't want to use double-sided tape inside of that line. Because your cards will go all the way down into that bottom. So I am going to take my ruler and just crease the waterproof canvas. I made one of these using, I think it's waterproof Oxford from Social Therapy. And that did amazingly well to like crease it with a ruler. It really holds it. It's a little more stiff backing. All right, so I'm just going to do the same thing and place tape here so that all of my top of my card slots have the tape in it just to help hold it. And I'm just looking on the side to make sure that that marked line inside is along the top. Right. And then the next line will be right sides together. So you could also use like a chalk pencil and you could mark the lines on the right side, and that would be easier to make the folds along the top of the card slots because then you can see it on the right side. So I'm going to use tape inside of this one. This is actually working out pretty nice, creasing it with the ruler. It's holding really nicely. All right, and then one more fold right sides together along the last line. So I don't know if I'm getting sick, but I have a little bit of a sore throat today. Nothing else. I guess my nose is a little runny. I don't have like a fever or anything, so I'm not worried that anything major is wrong, but still not fun. All right, so then we're going to top stitch along the top edge of each of these using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So when you do that, you just fold all the other parts out of the way. All right, now we'll fold everything back up, and the final measurement of this all folded. Wait, do we want to trim it yet? No, let's not trim it yet. Let's first measure, mark, and sew along the center of the card slots panel. We want to measure and mark the center, which is 3 7/8 of an inch in from the side. And I like to mark only along the card slots pieces. There's really no point in sewing all the way to the top, but also it doesn't matter if you do. So I'm going to sew only along the card slots. Make sure that everything is lined up nicely. And you want to definitely make sure that you backstitch a few stitches at the beginning of that so that they don't pull out. And I just sew all the way to the bottom. Okay, now, so this chalk pencil is a Dritz chalk pencil, and it's actually erasable. So I'm just going to erase the extra off my fabric, erasing stitches right out. All right, and then I want to trim, this final piece should be 7 3/4 inches wide and 4 1/8 inch tall. So I'm going to trim anything extra from the top, and I'm also going to use the main body lining. Yes, I'm going to use the main body lining pattern piece to round the bottom corners. So I ended up trimming about 1/4 inch off the top of mine. It could be different for you, and I rounded the corners of the bottom. So now on the wrong side, I'm going to measure and mark 1/2 inch from the top. I'm going to use the double-sided tape. And fold the top edge down to the marked line. All right, now we need to repeat the same process with the other zipper panel. I would speed this up because it's exactly the same, but I think a lot of people like that I keep my videos in real time because they'll sew along with me, and I'm actually like super slow, I think, so. All right, same process. Hopefully this one's a little faster. 2 3/4. And then up from that, we're going to go 2 inches. I'm just gonna really try to line it up. It's just hard to see through the darker parts on this ruler. I think I need to order, so all of my rulers are from Mormino. And she has rainbow and then also like a pink to teal gradient, and I like the pink to teal better. I think it's easier to see through, honestly. So I think maybe I need to buy new rulers. Maybe I'll wait and buy them in person next time I'm there. Let's see, I don't know if I marked all of my lines. 2 3/4, 1 3/4, 2, 1 3/4. I think I'm wrong. 2 3/4. Oh my goodness. Okay. 2 3/4 is the first one. The second line is 1 3/4. I have so many extra lines now. It's a good thing this is on the back. The next line is 2 inches. Which, okay, so that one falls right. Then the next line from that is 1 3/4. And then the next one from that is 2. So that one's good. And then we have a 1 3/4. OMG. So I said hopefully this one goes smoother, and it's definitely not going to. It is almost midnight. I don't stay up this late anymore. I used to all the time. And I am in bed by like 10 p.m., sometimes earlier, every single day. So this is really late for me. All right, so we're going to fold this together, right sides together along that line. So you do want to make sure that your marked lines go all the way to the edge, because when they don't, it's hard to line it up. All right, and one more. Okay, and then same process, we're going to top stitch each of the top of each of the card slots using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, I'm just one more time going to make sure that all of this is creased really well. And then I want to measure and mark the center. So 3 7/8 of an inch. On the side. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing and trim this to be 4 1/8 inches tall. Yes, and I'm going to trim the bottom corner. All right, now on the back of this one, we will measure 1/2 inch down from the top and mark on the back. Double-sided tape along that line. And then I'm just folding the raw edge to the marked line and sticking it to the tape. All right, and then I'm going to use my ruler to crease that as well. All right, so both of our card slots are completed now. I'm going to take the flap lining with inner flap accent, place it right side up. I'm going to take the card slots panel right side up and place it on here. I'm going to use a line of this tape. All right, so we want to butt the top of the card slots panel up to the bottom of the inner flap accent. And it should be centered from left to right. So just like that. And then we're going to top stitch that in place using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. This is step 16. Okay, and now we want to take the exterior back and flap, which is this piece. Place it wrong sides up, and then place the flap lining, all of this, wrong side down on top of that. And we want to match up the raw edges along here. I'm going to use tape on this. I'll put it along the edges on the flat portion, and then along the back side of the card slots. You don't want to put it, if you just put it along the edges of this piece, if you just put it along the edges of the exterior back and flat piece, then it won't catch the edge of the card slots because it is 1/8 inch shorter and narrower than that piece is. Okay. So line up first along the flat portion because it will line up exactly along the edges. And you can also put some clips on this to help hold it. And then stick the card slots piece in place as well. And it will be 1/8 of an inch in from each side and 1/8 of an inch up from the bottom of the flap and back piece, or back and flap. So this is what you should have right here. All right, now that is step 17. Step 18, you want to take the main body B panels. We want the zipper closing toward the left, and we want to place this right side down. I'm going to use tape for this. Imagine that. Really like to use tape on this to hold everything in place nicely. It's a little bit trickier on the side of the card slots because of the thickness. But I do think creasing it with the ruler seemed to help a lot with keeping it thinner. You could also put the tape on this piece instead, if you wanted to. Oh, and also I'm going to switch out my foot for this part and use the regular foot that comes with the sewing machine, because with this narrow foot sewing next to the zipper or the card slot panels, it wanted to kind of, the thickness of the card slot panels was kind of pushing my foot, and I don't want it to do that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the side of the foot was like right along the edge of the card slot panels, and yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense. Okay, so right now we are lining this up, the back, or I guess the bottom main body B panel is being lined up with the bottom and sides of the back and flap piece. The lining panels are sandwiched in between. And you just want to make sure that the edges are lined up really well. So I'm using tape, but then I'm also going to place clips on this. And you're folding the top main body B panels out of the way as you go. All right, so it'll be like this. The top of the main body B panel is lined up with the bottom of the accent, the inner flap accent. So now we're going to fold the top main body B panel out of the way as we sew. And first we're going to sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There will be 2 lines of sewing around this. We're starting at the top of main body B. And make sure that that is lined up with the top of, or the bottom of the inner flap accent. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then stop when you get to the top of the other side of the main body B panel and back stitch there as well. All right, so now we have a line of stitching here that is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to singe the ends of my threads. I've just been doing that every step along the way to make sure that I don't forget any, because with the raw edges, you'll have the edges of your thread exposed. Okay, now we're going to sew using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I want to sew this with the flap and body side up, or back and flap side up, so that way the stitching along the flap top that's going to show on the front of the wallet is from the right side. So just make sure underneath that you're folding this panel out of the way as you go. So you'll fold this side and then kind of fold this up. So, and I like to start right here, so that the back stitching will be on the back of the wallet. And this is using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, and then obviously when we get done, if there are any like white parts, like here I can see a little bit of the back side of the vinyl, we will trim those off, and then we can use the edge paint. All right, so now I got around to the other side, and then I'm going to go all the way up around the flap portion. And I'm slow around my curves and take it one stitch at a time and lift the presser foot up and adjust as I need, or just as needed, whatever. All right. All right, now we have one more piece to attach. Okay. So that was step 19. Now on step 20, we want to place the card slots panel. I'm going to use double-sided tape, of course. And I'm actually going to use it all the way around the back of this so that things aren't shifting. All right, and then there's going to be, I'm placing this wrong sides together with the main body A. I'm lining the raw edge of main body A up with the top folded edge of the card slots panel. And there should be a 1/8 inch gap on each side of the card slots panel from the edge of that to the edge of main body A. All right, so now I just want to top stitch along the top edge of this using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And you want to be very careful to make sure that you don't sew through the top of your ID window. All right, now I'm going to place these right sides together, and I want to use some more double-sided tape. I'm going to place them lining sides together. That's a better way to word that. And this is step 21. And then I think I am like definitely not an edge painting master of any sort, because it's not necessary, but it's a nice touch. And I have a lot of edge paint, but I haven't used it a lot, mainly because I don't make a lot of raw edged items. I guess the Moon Dance, that's the last time I used edge paint very much. But this is kind of a nicer looking wallet. Definitely could be made out of leather, which I would like to try. And I think if you make it out of leather, that using edge paint will really elevate the look. So now we just want to match up the raw edges of the main body A and main body B panels with the lining panels and the card slots panels sandwiched in between. All right, so I'm going to use some clips, and I find it easier to sew. Do I say in the pattern? Yes, it's easier to sew with main body A down against the bed of the sewing machine and the back and flat piece facing up. So the only downside to that is that your bobbin stitches will be visible on the front of the pattern, which I generally don't like to do, but this thread matches well enough that I don't think it's an issue. All right, so we're going to start here, fold the back and flat piece and the other main body A. Nope, main body B. So we want to sew first using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I do that because it's easier to sew the 1/4 inch first and then come back around and do the 1/8 inch. All right, one more little bit of top stitching and we're done. So this will be an 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, trim our last threads and singe the ends of them. This just kind of melts it so it doesn't come unraveled. So, all right, so then I've got some parts here where you can see the wrong side of the vinyl. I will trim that all up and then edge coat. So this is the final wallet, the Vestibule Wallet. We've got a little ID slot here. I don't want to just put my ID in there on a video on YouTube. So anyway, we've got our 8 card slots, zipper pocket, and then just like the side or the little spots next to it where you could slip cash in there. And this is a nice slim wallet, so it's not going to take up a ton of room. It's not super bulky. I'm kind of dying to make one out of leather next. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know if that's something anybody'd be interested in seeing a video for or not. I could do a video. I'm not a leather expert by any means, but finished wallet, super cute. Thank you for watching my video, and if you stuck around this long, there's going to be a Vestibule Mini also. So I'll be working on that next. Thanks for watching.